Hi, everybody. We are back, and you're listening to Bottoms Up, Appetite for Discussion here on the Gag Order Network. Remind everybody, if you want to be a part of the discussion, and I can't see why people wouldn't want to be, there are two ways you can do it. First, you can call us.
I'm trying to use the phone!
First, the live number is 857-366-5444. If you have a question about the show, our sanity, or for our guest, please call. We'd love to have you on the air. If you don't want to hear your voice on the air and you want to ask a question anyway, you can text us. And the number for texting us is 857-445-0424, which spells
gag.
Yes, and we are back. We are here. Our guest is on the line. She's still on the line, right, Dimitri?
Yes, she is.
Our guest is on the line. It's Bobbie Thompson. She is the author of her book, My Husband Looks Better in Lingerie Than I Do, Damn It. Bobbie, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ashley. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being on the show. We're glad to have you. Saw the title. I like the damn it at the end.
Yeah, you got to have the damn it.
Got to have damn it. That is pretty cool. I think every woman or most women can relate to the damn it part. So I guess my first question is, what got you to write this book?
My book is kind of the companion memoir to the book my spouse released in 2012. Her book is titled Hung in the Middle, A Journey of Gender Discovery. And I thought, if she can tell her side of the story, then I should be able to tell my side of the story as what I call myself an outside looking in member of the transgender community. My book is kind of like a transition in itself, but it's a transition of mindset from me not even knowing the word transgender until 2006 to gaining understanding of the person that came to be my spouse in 2008.
Okay. Now, so your spouse wears lingerie. Your spouse is transgender. Okay.
Actually, that picture that is the caricature of our book, I have literally been standing right in that position. We have that oval mirror in our bedroom, and Alana has this long, lean, gorgeous body and loves the lingerie, and I've got this short, dumpy, round body, and I've stood right there with arms crossed thinking
your husband looks better in lingerie than you do. Damn it.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because I saw that. The first thing I thought was, wow, that pretty much depicts every wife or girlfriend that has seen their significant other dressed and thought, oh my God, they look better than I do. I've heard that on some levels from many, many people. I've heard that.
I have too. Since my book came out, I've had several people contact me and say that very thing.
Isn't that weird? Because I am transgendered myself, and so I can relate on some level to this book. May I, if I may ask, your significant other, is it better I call her she or he?
She is fully female now. To give you a little background, she's fully female in my eyes now, I should say. To give you a little background, and I do have Alana's permission to use her male name since I knew her by that name for 25 years. But the situation is I had known Alan for approximately 25 years, and he and I shared an intimate relationship. And then I started hearing these rumors about Alana after we had separated. But anytime I would still see Alan, he never said anything to me until 2006 when I went over to his house to pick him up to go shopping with a friend, and out came Alana. Oh. And it was a shock to me. And, of course, as it says in my book, on that day, I told my friend, you're a freak, and I don't want to have anything to do with you. And, of course, that was my ignorance and not knowing any better. and it took me approximately 2 years, and that my book explains my transition in thinking and my process and how I came to the beginning of understanding and then the next step and the next step. So now, with my understanding and seeing, Alana is female. The male no longer exists. Just like the female didn't exist when I knew the male no longer exists now that I'm aware of the female.
Okay, because this is the thing. This is where my question was leading, but I think you kind of answered it for me. All right, is that I wanted to know if Alana had told you beforehand, or she was caught, or something. Apparently, you were shocked into it. Your introduction was through shock.
Right.
Okay, because when I came out to people closest to me, my mom is a prime example of that. Okay, my mom lives with me. She had no clue. And when I came out 10 years ago, for her it was I needed to talk to her. We went out for a day. We hung out. It was like a mother-son day, and it was just hanging out, spending time together, and then me just confiding her. I needed to tell her something. And I mean, I'm making the story. I'm giving the Reader's Digest version. I don't like to, make stories out longer than they really are. But I told her, and her answer to me was that's it. And I was like, what? And she's like, I thought you were going to say, you were on drugs, or you were arrested, or you got a girl pregnant. She's like, that's it. And then when I kind of explained that I go out this way, and I've been going out with friends this way, she was like, oh. And she accepted it. Well, I don't want to say accept. Accept is not the right word. She respected what I did on some level, but she didn't understand it fully because she just thought, well, maybe you should just. At first, it was maybe you should just dress around the house, and I said, well, that's not living. That's just living in another closet, and that's what I was trying to get out of. And so now we're flash forwarding, 10 years later. Now her and I, we do everything together. My mom and I will do lunch, shopping and lunch, run errands. We don't care. And she is my biggest supporter. She's my hero. I love her. I know she's listening, Mom. I love you. And so for me, I'm not saying it was easy, but I think my road to transition is a hell of a lot easier. Most of my family has been very open about it, very accepting about it. Again, I hate using that word accepting, and I'll explain that in a second. They've been very receptive of it. They've been very welcoming of it. Friends, family, very few people have turned their back, and my outlook is, well, you have a right to not like it. You can't force somebody to like something, and that's fine. I can focus on the positives, and when I say accepting, I don't believe in that, because my belief is that acceptance comes from within. Once you accept yourself, it's not that what other people think doesn't matter. It's just what you believe matters. What you accept matters. I still take into account what other people's thoughts are and what their opinions are. I don't turn around and tell people your opinions don't count, because I don't like it when someone says, well, your opinion doesn't count. When you accept yourself, no, it does. You should always listen to other people's opinions. It's a fine line. You don't want acceptance, but you definitely need to earn some respect. Because if I've had people come up to me and go, I'm transgender. They need to accept me, and it's like, I wouldn't accept you. Why? Because you're a jerk. I go, just because you're transgendered isn't a get out of jail free card. Isn't a free pass to acceptance. You accept yourself, that's great, but you still have to earn respect from people. And I think that is where the transgender community has that the vision is getting hazy. And I've gone on record saying it numerous times. I think we need to get our heads out of our asses, and we need to really understand that instead of dictating what we want, we need to start, like everybody else, you need to earn respect. It's not given to anybody. Just if I could tell you from my own journey that, I cover a lot of expos and Comic-Cons. I'm out in auditoriums filled with every walk of life. Car buffs, comic book fans, tattoo artists, chefs, any expo I've covered. And if anybody goes to my website, you'll see all the things I've covered. I have pretty much put myself in a center of auditoriums with every genre of people that walk the face of the earth, and probably a few more. And I haven't really had problems because I believe in who I am. I accept myself as a person and who I am. I treat people with respect, and I'm outgoing and friendly. I'm not trying to force anything on anybody. I'm not trying to be something I'm not, and I'm not trying to prove anything. And that's what I think our community needs to do, instead of sitting there saying society doesn't accept us. Now, I'm not saying everywhere in the world they accept us. I mean, I'm sure there are areas, like maybe in the southern states where there are problems. But it's not like that all over. And, I think part of the problem is that not enough people own up to being who they are. They need to say, I am transgender, and this is who I am. Everybody's so afraid of what people will think or what could happen. And it's like they wait 30 years, 40 years, and they go, if only I had known sooner. Well, back in the day, I can understand that. But today, the transgender movement is out there. You can see there are people living their lives. So I think people just let the fear get to them. But I could go on this topic all night long. And I have done that in the past. What inspires you to write this book? Because obviously, here you are, you said you guys separated, then you met Alana for the first time by being shocked. And, I mean, is this more of a book for the wives and for the girlfriends? Is this a book about transgenderism? I mean, is it through transgenderism, through the spouse's eyes? Is this a book to warn people? I mean, what is the message you're sending?
No, it's not a warning people book. I kind of like to think of it as an education sort of book.
Okay.
First of all, I talk in my book about one of the sessions that I went to. Alana and I got to go to the 2012 Southern Comfort Conference, and one of the sessions I went into was with the spouses of trans women, and I felt so out of place there. And the difference was I was the only person in the room that was free to talk about having a transgender spouse when I was out in public. Okay. Everyone else was a private thing within their own home, and the biggest problem that the spouses seemed to be having was the fact that they had no one else to talk to. Well, hopefully my book gives them somebody else's point of view of what's going on, not with just them. And initially, in my brain, I thought of the male and the female as two separate beings, two separate personalities, two separate entities. Okay. It took me a while. It took me a while to learn that there's only one being, and this one person is a wonderful person. And I also believe, by being here in Kentucky and not knowing anything about transgender at all, I came from point zero to my understanding of and I'm not saying that I know all there is to know about transgender.
I'm transgender. I don't even know all there is to know.
Oh yeah, the transgender experience is not mine, but my experience is what I have shared in the book. Right. Going from zero understanding to one of the most wonderful experiences I've ever had. The first transgender support group meeting that I went to with Alana, I went kind of fearful of not knowing what to expect. And by the time I left that meeting, I realized that people are just people, no matter what their life's journey. And then the next big experience was going to Southern Comfort in September of 2012, and we plan on being there again this year, and I can't wait. I just got a little over 2 more weeks to wait to get there. But the experience of being at Southern Comfort and living a week, and technically that was Alana's first time of living fully in femme for that long a time.
Okay.
Just the fact that her book came out really helped with her transition into being able to live life as a female. I mean, even, the adults in our family were aware that Alana was transgender, but now even my grandson is, and accepted it. And I'm thinking about writing a children's book based on the conversation that we had with my grandson explaining transgender. But, so I'm hoping that my book helps spouses of other transgender persons, as well as I'm hoping that my book helps people that are starting at point zero, where I started, when it comes to transgender persons. So I think anybody breathing could read my book and get something out of it.
I can understand that. See, now for me, I've done the conferences, and I think they're okay to a certain point, and then I go, I personally, I don't need them. While I'm not putting down conferences, I have never been to Southern Comfort. Okay, I have never been there, so I can't put down something I haven't been to. But from the conferences that I've seen, and this is why I'm anti-conference right now, is that I think a lot of people use them as a crutch. And what I'm saying that is, at the conferences I've been to, I will go, and I've been out for 10 years now. Okay, I've been Ashley for 10 years. And I've gone to these conferences, and I've seen people that I've known for 10 years, and they still dress like they're 11 years old. They still wear way too much makeup, and they still act like they think a woman is either supposed to be a hooker or an 18th century Victorian woman. And I go, you obviously have been inside this building too long. It doesn't work that way. Women don't act that way. And while I understand that for some of them it's a fetish, it's hard to distinguish a conference being to help people if it welcomes fetish. The conference that I've been to, when you go out in the evening, they have parties. And it's not uncommon to see on the dance floor people dressed up in, short little sailor outfits and Bo Peep tutus and muumuus and whatever. Sometimes bloomers, their underwear. And I go, that's not what being transgender is about. Being transgender is about being who you are, not about showing off your fantasy. And so when I see that, as someone who's transgender myself, my mission is to better myself. That's why I cover events, I cover expos. I have this awesome show on an awesome network. The show is also aired on 3 different affiliates, so my show is aired 4 times a week. And it's for me, that's hard work. I own up to being who I am. I fight for my rights. I fight for what I believe in. And I don't educate people. I just try to help them understand us. And I see the conference, at least the ones I've been to, as as an antichrist. It doesn't really, I don't think they help what they say they help. I think it's more of a come in here and feel safe. And while I understand on some level the whole feel safe, you can't feel safe for the last 10 years. You have to say, hey, look, and like I said, I've gotten guff for this. I've gotten a lot of guff from people in the community. Well, we're not like you, Ashley. And my answer is, why, don't you want to be who you are in the real world? That's when I was 9 years old, thinking about being who I really wanted to be. I wasn't thinking about going to a conference or to a drag bar and drinking all night, and dressing up like little Bo Peep. When people say it's people are just not comfortable like you. Well, my answer to them is, when you go when you go on a first date with somebody, you're nervous. Do you call off the date for 10 years? When you go to a new job and you're nervous on the first day, do you put off the job for 10 years and go to support groups? No, no, you have to eventually take on that task and face it. And I can understand, a couple, maybe 2-3 years of it, but by then there should be some evolvement. Somebody should be evolving. And that's where my thinking gets different, because I think we should be evolving. We've all worn the short skirts and we've done the lingerie, but you evolve as a person in anything you do, whether it's a relationship, a job, being transgender, even being a woman. If you were a genetically born woman, you eventually learn the tricks of makeup. You learn, the styles. You change styles. Everybody evolves as a person. And when I walk into the conferences, it's almost being thrown back into the 90s, because I see some people that have been there that long still dressing like the 90s are the in thing. And that's where I think that visual is a misrepresentation of what the transgender community is. I think. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think what the conference did for me, especially again coming from ground zero and being raised in Kentucky in the Baptist church, and I don't say this next comment to offend anyone, but having heard all my life that anything that's different from you, which includes the world who sees a man in a dress, then that is bizarre, that is freakish, that is mentally insane. Well, that was the only education that I had ever had regarding anything different. It took me the experience of meeting people at the conference, the experience of seeing what Alana's going through, to realize that when I look at Alana, I am not I'm not seeing a man in a dress. I am seeing a trans female, and there is a difference.
Oh, absolutely. My mom would agree with you. My mom would totally agree with you on that, because my mom's the same way. But even my mom, well, I'm sure if she called the show, she would say, some of them, unfortunately, just don't want to grow up. Some of them just want to be 14 forever. And I think those are the ones that misrepresent what, and I think that's what gives, because people say, that the trans community gives up a bad vibe. I think it's those people that give up the bad vibe, because, you could have 50 trans women who live out in society, work in society. I mean, I've held jobs, in society as Ashley. I've worked at high-profile, companies as Ashley. And no one's batted an eyelash at me because I dress professional, I act professional, I behave, professional. This is, I know my environment. Now, I could go with a few of my friends to a restaurant and hang out, and no one would even think twice about us. But then you get that one person that walks in wearing fishnet stockings, 6-inch stiletto heels with the chrome heels, wearing way too much blush, and grabbing a beer and holding it by fisting that, putting their hand around fisting that bottle and drinking from it. And that, no matter how well we act, that's the image that society tends to learn from. Society and any culture learns from the bad, never from the good. And,
exactly.
Right.
As
and
my grandmother used to put it, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. So
right.
It's the one person that brings out that attention. But with you saying the things that you were just saying, it threw my mind back to the days when I was working for Kentucky State Government as an administrative assistant, which is basically secretary. And there were just, I was a little bit older than some of the other secretaries by at least 5 years, but not a whole lot older than some of the other secretaries. And there were secretaries that would come in that were single and liked to wear their clothes, those short skirts and all of that kind of stuff. Their personalities were definitely different from mine.
Right.
But in my mind, that didn't make them any less a secretary. That was their secretary experience. Right. And I kind of see that as in society, everybody has their own perspectives and their own life and their own things that they do.
Right.
And I wish there were people in society that would straighten up and fly right, so to speak. So when it comes to the transgender community and seeing the people in the fishnet and all like that,
Right.
I do wish that more people would start paying attention to the people that are sitting there in the restaurant like you,
Right.
that is more professional.
Well, see, here's
I do
right.
agree with that. And it is those who are out and live their true lives that I've learned from. If everybody hid the fact that they were transgender, I wouldn't have learned anything.
Right. See, here's the.
I would still
right.
be at ground zero and think, oh, well, that's just bizarre or a mental condition.
And we tend to be the ambassadors for the community. And here's the thing now, people are going to listen to this and say, oh, Ashley has a problem with anybody wearing fishnets and dressing like a dime store hooker. I don't. I honestly don't have a problem with that. But the problem I have is that people that do that will sit there and go, oh, look, they don't accept us. They don't like us. You know, the problem is, see, when I first came out, and I used to wear the really short skirts, and I would wear the high heels, and I would go out to have lunch or go shopping, I owned up to it. You know, yes, I'm transgender. This is who I am. This is how I feel comfortable. Okay? If I was the one that was getting the attention, I knew I was getting the attention. I knew that I was going to bring attention to myself. And I said, if I brought attention to myself, I have to own up to it. Mm-hmm. The ones that are out there today, their mentality tends to be, well, why aren't people accepting us? Well, because you're kind of giving them an image that they're afraid of. You know, it's like the child molesters out there when they dress like your neighbor with the polo shirt and the khaki pants. People go, oh, that's why kids aren't afraid of them. But if they dress with the overcoats and the dark glasses and the mustaches and hide in the woods, that's what they used to teach us to watch out for. And that's the scary guy. That's the poster child for a child abductor. They're not showing you someone that dressed like Mr. Rogers. And seriously, but
that is somebody who would scare me.
Right,
Someone
but
who
I'm saying
dressed
is
like
that's the image. So, of course, they see that image, and you know, I say, hey, if I'm going to dress in that image, if I'm going to dress with the short skirt, the high heels, you know, show a lot of skin, wear too much makeup, well, I'm going to own up to who I am. And a lot of times, most of them will say, well, I'm a girl. And it's like, no, you're not a girl. You're not 10 years old. You're a woman. You're a lady. What I tell people is, I say, don't even say you're a woman. You say, I'm transgendered. Because we're not, in this state, we have trans equality. Not total equality, but we have a lot of trans equality. When I tell people, when you say to people you're a woman, the public looks at you and says, I know you're not a woman. I can tell you're not a woman. You know, there's no such thing as a totally, what they would call passable transgender person. And when you sit there and say, I'm a woman, yet they know they're being lied to. When someone looks at me, I just say, I'm transgendered. And they look at you and they go...
A term that I've learned
right.
to use that I really like and sits well with me is a trans female.
I just say I'm transgender. Because let me tell you why. Because we're not fighting for trans female rights. We're fighting for transgender rights. And the more people that go out there and say, I'm transgender, the more people are going to understand the word, and the more they're going to understand why transgender people need their rights. When we start coming up with umbrella terms, we only make it worse for ourselves. Because now everybody's going, well, I'm not transgender, I'm trans female, I'm trans male. And the public goes, what? I'm confused. You have to keep it simple. Because when the gays fought for rights, they didn't say, well, I'm a top, I'm a bottom, I'm overly gay. We're gay. They stuck together and said, we're gay. And when you make it simple and you see the numbers are all there, then the government, everybody just says, oh, okay, I get it. We are confusing the public. And at least in my opinion, we're confusing the public. And while it might sound nice to say trans female, we should just own up to being who we are. We're transgender. And because, like I said, when I go to the State House in Boston, where we're broadcasting from in Boston, when I go to the State House and I stand up for transgender rights, I say I'm transgender. say identify as this or identify as that. I'm transgender. I want my rights. I want equal access. You know, and they see that I admit it, that I own up to it, and they see that what I'm saying is real, and they take notice of that. And that I think that goes a long way.
I understand what you're
Right.
saying, and yes, I understand fighting for the transgender rights and stuff, but speaking from my perspective of learning about the transgender community, the word trans female helps me to understand what I'm talking about. Like, I know that my spouse is not a quote-unquote woman. I
Right.
see female. My spouse is a female. My spouse is a trans female. My spouse is transgender.
Right.
And all of those things are correct from my perspective and my point of understanding. And that's why I like using trans female for my spouse, because it conveys understanding, I think, to get people to know that I am married to a female who is transgender.
Right, and that's
how I use that term. I don't use it to umbrella everybody that.
well. I'm not accusing
transgender.
everybody of using it to umbrella. What I'm saying is I just don't like the umbrella term. So I think it confuses the public. And
Yeah.
with me, it's like when I go out, you know, they can see that I'm trying to represent as female. So that's why when I go out, I don't use terms like trans female, because I think it's pretty obvious that I'm trying to be female. And I mean, you've seen my photos. I don't look like I'm presenting as a male. So I think I look at it and say, I think the public has enough smarts to figure that one out. I'm just going to tell them I'm transgender, because they're probably looking at me going, I'm not sure where they're going with this. Well, I'm transgender. And they go, oh, okay, she looks female. Okay, I get it. You know, and the public looks at that, at least from my experience, the public looks at it when I explain it, and they go, thanks for giving us the benefit of the doubt, you know, because I've seen people in our community go out and try to pass out pamphlets. I've seen people go out there and try to explain to them like they're kids, like they're children. I've seen people go out there, and when someone says, well, I don't get it, I don't like it, I see them turn around and start F-bombing that person. And I turn around, and the first thing I say is, well, you have to put yourself in their shoes. They, just like you at one time, didn't understand. My mother didn't
Right.
understand at one time. Even I didn't understand at one time. You got to put yourself in their position. You're not going to have 100% turnaround. Some people just aren't going to like you. Some people aren't going to understand or accept you. You have to take the good with the bad, and if it turns out to be a bad experience, you have to be the better of the two. And when I see them turn around and give that person grief for not accepting them, I go, how would you like it if they gave you a pamphlet and try to explain to you why you should be straight, why you should not be transgendered? You wouldn't like it. So don't get mad if they don't like it. You know, you have to see it on both sides. And I have a tremendous respect for society at large, because our community has pushed a lot on them in such a short period of time, and they have tried to understand us. And, you know, like I said, in my personal experience, I think I've had maybe 98%, 99% success rate, you know, and this is New England. So I've been around the whole New England area, and I've very seldomly had somebody that didn't care or didn't like it or didn't respect me. And usually it just goes, they just yell out some name at you and walk away. And I go, well, that's one person I'll never see again. Who cares? Most people focus on the elephant in the room. I don't.
And Alana has received a lot of acceptance and respect and recognition, or whatever you want to call it. Right here, we live in central Kentucky in a little town of DeSales, and it's got 8,000 people here. And so anything that's different is really different in our community. So it's wonderful, the amount of acceptance, and I don't know how to say it exactly.
I would say support. The society is welcoming.
Yeah,
because people always say to me, I hope they accept me. And I go, you don't need their acceptance. You need your own acceptance.
Right.
Because I'll tell you right now, when I came out and I decided to be this person that I am today, I said to myself, the only one that has to accept me is me. Once you accept yourself for who you are, that becomes such a strength. It's not that what other people think don't matter. It's just that what you think about yourself matters more. And it's very liberating. And if more people out there, like I said, owned it instead of, see, I'm not about excuses. I'm about solutions. And again, that's why I put down, I don't want to say put down, that's a harsh word. I don't condone or like so much the conferences. I think while they preach they want to help people. I think it's great for people who are coming out for the first time to see that they're not the only ones out there. Although 10 years later now, I think we know we're not the only ones out there. But I see too many people latch on to those conferences like that's all they have. And it's like, no, you can actually live your life. The only horizon I see us right now having to still hurdle is employment. I think there's still, when it comes to employment, I think the corporate world is not ready or willing as much. There's some that do, but I think a lot of it still, there's a lot to do to get equality and employment. I think there's still too many loopholes for corporations to weasel their way through, because I have faced that myself on many levels. And like I said, I've fought for trans equality. I testified twice at Congress. I was there when the governor signed it in Massachusetts. I still have one of the pens. I was there. I made sure I was visible. And I think that's what we need to do is when you put faces to the issue, you put a face to the issue. And,
right.
and that's it. And I think too many people are going conferences and they're going to Facebook. And when I'll give you a good example. When I go on Facebook, and I know our time's running short, when I see somebody on Facebook with the picture of themselves dressed, and they only show a picture from the neck down or in their underwear, I go, you guys are part of the problem, not the solution. If you want to be seen or make friends, go to a conference. If you're afraid, go to a conference. But if you're on a social network is about being seen. When you don't show your face, you're setting the wrong image for the rest of the public eye to see. And that's the image that sticks with them, is the person that's afraid to be seen, and the public thinks that there's a problem. Why would you not want to be seen? And so people think, well, they must be a freak. Well, something must be mentally wrong with them. Lock up your sons and daughters. And that's unfortunately the image, because we fear what we don't understand. And it's not only with transgenderism, it's with anything we don't understand. You know, and that's the problem, is that those people, while they think that they may be doing good, they're not. They need to accept who they are. They need to embrace it. They need to start going to conferences, whatnot. And that's to me, that's why I don't like social media. Some of the conferences I only don't like when I see people I've known for 10 years still going there and still living out their fetishes. It's like, there are clubs for that. There are clubs for that. Conferences should be about, and I think the people running them should honestly enforce that more, because we do need to start setting a better example. If we want society to welcome us equally, we have to start acting that way. Like I said, I was once that way. I evolved. I grew up. I'm like, I don't want to be this way anymore. I want to go to the next level, and that's me. But
well, like I said, it's the people who live their true selves that I've learned anything from, and I know there are people who, for whatever their reason might be, feel that they have to not show their face. And
right, but if you're not, my thing is, if you're not going to show your face, then don't get a Facebook profile, because you know what I'm saying? Because it comes off as creepy. It's creepy, and creepy means bad, and that's anything. If you had someone that wanted to friend you and they were wearing a latex mask, you'd say, why would I want to friend that person? It's the same thing. It's just the way of the world, and I think they're doing more harm than good. While they think they're trying to do something, they're not. I do want you to plug your book before we go, because it's only, that's what we do here. We plug. The book is called My Husband Looks Better in Lingerie than I do, damn it. The author is Bobbie Thompson. How do we find your book?
It's available at Amazon.com, of course, or you can just go to myhusbandlooksbetter.com, and there's all sorts of links and information and videos and all sorts of stuff about Alana and I, as well as how to get the book there. And like I said, my book is a companion to Alana's, so if you go to hunginthemiddle.com, you can read chapter 1 of Alana's book, as well as see her interview with the author and a bunch of happenings there, too.
Oh, great. Okay. I just want to announce that next week, which will be our 1-year anniversary on Gago the Network, next week's guest will be Marina Bruno from Wondering Pictures. She was actually slated to be our guest a few weeks ago, but we had a celebrity head, Ken Sago, so we had to pump her to next week. But she's going to be our guest next week, so I'm looking forward to talking to her. Bobbie, I want to thank you very much for being our guest tonight. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I could go on all night about this. I really could, but our time is drawing to a close.
Me too. I appreciate the opportunity.
And we'll talk on Facebook some more, and I look forward to reading your book.
Okay, thanks, honey.
You have a great night, and thank you again.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.